Hi, welcome. My name is Lisa Wolf, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to cover how App Factors can help you and your team deliver production grade code. In an earlier session, I covered how AI coding tools today create risks for the enterprise. And while that speed is real, what you end up with is code that your enterprise knows nothing about, and code you can't trust. Today, I'm going to cover how App Factors Architecture Context Engine, or ACE, ensures that you can ship code that's production ready, that's auditable, traceable, and compliant by design. These quotes are from practitioners reporting what's happening in their environments today as they're using AI coding agents. And many of you may have heard of Linus Torvalds. Linus is the one that created Linux. What Linus says is that, quote, people who don't understand the complexity of systems will also prompt AI coding agents to write code and processes that will fail. Sunil says that code that has passed every review gate still breaks down in production. And in addition to those quotes, here's a few numbers from enterprise engineering teams that reinforce the different kinds of failures they're running into. 81% of teams report production failures from AI generated code. 45% of AI generated code contains critical security issues found post deployment. And by month 3, many of these teams say unstructured AI code bases become difficult to maintain. All three have the same root cause: AI coding agents that generate code that know nothing about your enterprise. App Factors ACE fixes these problems. ACE, as I mentioned, is the architecture context engine. It's App Factors' answer to the single biggest problem every AI coding agent has when it comes out of the box. Those agents know nothing about your business. And when you give an AI coding tool a task, whether it's Claude Code or Copilot or Cursor, it doesn't matter which one. Again, it just has no idea what your tech stack is, or what your compliance requirements are, or your security policies. ACE changes all that. Before any agent in the software lifecycle runs, ACE loads three things. It loads your architecture standards, the approved tech stack, the component patterns, the domain models. It loads your compliance requirements, whether that's HIPAA, SOC 2, or PCI DSS, whatever applies to your business. And it loads your business context, the goals, the stakeholders, the domain scope. It delivers all of this in a structured, machine readable context. This is not a PDF that's sitting in a share drive. It's not a paragraph in a prompt. It's code grade context that every specialist agent draws from before it acts. This is the governed agentic software development lifecycle. It's a seven-step process. It's the software development lifecycle many of you are already familiar with, but now it has AI agents across every stage. And important to note, it has humans in the loop, as well as governance that's built in from step one. When using AI coding agents, you start by giving that AI coding agent your intent and a prompt, and it generates code, as I mentioned earlier, without context. In App Factor's governed agentic SDLC, you still use your favorite agent, but it's grounded in your architecture standards, your compliance and security policies. The result is software that's not just fast, it's auditable and traceable. And the steps in this SDLC start with step one, your intent, step two, your app profile, step three is your architecture, step four is your task plan, step five is the code generation. So this is where your favorite AI coding agent enters. Step six is the code review and then deployment. And in steps two, three, four, and six, no agent proceeds until a qualified human reviewer signs off. This slide covers what makes each of the steps in the software development lifecycle reliable. Every agent draws from the same shared context layer shown here before it runs. And that layer contains your business context, your architecture standards, and your compliance requirements. AppFactors ACE manages this layer, and we call this the governance layer. It's not a prompt, as I mentioned. It's structured version controlled context that gets loaded into each agent's working memory before code generation begins. These are 7 of our primary agents. They work across the software development lifecycle. Each one has its own job and produces a specific artifact that passes to the agent next to it. So each artifact that gets produced, for example, Agent 1 reads the business context and the goals. It produces a business context document, and that business context document passes to Agent 2. Agent 2 then creates the application capability map, and it produces the app profile document that passes on to Agent 3, and so on. At this point, there's a human in the loop who reviews the application capability map. And it continues like this through a structured handoff between agents and human reviews. And that's why, in the end, you have production ready, trusted code. There are also 4 gates. These gates are where human reviews happen. A human review happens at Agent 2 to review the application profile. This is typically the product owner or the business analyst. The Gate 2 review takes place after Agent 3 generates the architecture, and the human reviewer in this case is either the enterprise architect or the tech lead, and that person reviews the governed architecture before it becomes the basis for code generation. The third gate, or Gate 3, that review happens after Agent 4 generates the task plan. And that human reviewer here is either the tech lead or the senior developer. And this person confirms the task specs are executable and correctly scoped before code is written. And then the final code review is Gate 4, and this occurs after Agent 5 generates the code. This is a code review. And this reviewer is either the senior developer or the code owner. And they review the 76-point code scorecard before deployment. At every gate, a qualified person reviews a structured artifact and makes a documented decision. So to bring this all together, AI coding agents fail at enterprise scale. And ACE solves 3 specific context failures that cause AI coding agents to fail. Challenge 1, each agent starts without knowledge of earlier decisions. ACE's answer, the shared context layer that all agents draw from, every agent knows what every prior agent decided. Challenge 2, AI generated code does not know your architecture standards. ACE's answer, your tech stack, component patterns, and integration rules are loaded before any code generation step runs. The architecture is enforced at the point of creation and not reviewed after the fact. And challenge 3, compliance gaps are found at audit long after the code has shipped. ACE's answer, compliance requirements are loaded at the architecture step and verified at every pull request. These are not process improvement layered on top of coding agents. These are structural fixes that change what the AI coding agent knows before it acts. And to ensure that your engineering decisions are structured inputs that agents can execute from versus documents humans refer to after the fact, we employ architecture as code and policy as code, which are 2 sides of the same principle. Architecture as code represents your approved tech stack, your component patterns, your domain model, and these are loaded into the agent context before code generation begins, as I mentioned. The agent doesn't guess what standards to apply here. They're present from the first decision. And then policy as code. These are loaded at the architecture step and active at every code generation step. The result is code that is compliant by construction and not discovered to be non-compliant at audit. These are results from teams who are running governed agentic pipelines in production. They're seeing a 40 to 60% reduction in rework after deployment because agents are generating code that conforms to their architecture standards from the start. They're also finding 80% fewer compliance findings at PR review because compliance requirements are loaded before the code is generated and not checked after the fact. And one of our customers, 27 Global, runs multiple software and cloud engineering projects. The governance challenge that they were running into was they didn't have consistent architecture standards and review criteria. What AppFactors delivered for 27 Global was 76 governance checks automated on day one and problems that they were able to catch in week 4 instead of week 12. And when you catch these problems in week 4, it's a lot cheaper to resolve than later on. Architecture reviews shifted from being judgment calls at 27 Global to structured, documented decisions. And another one of our customers, a healthcare organization who built a medical lab platform from scratch. What they needed to build was a full stack medical lab platform, multi-tenant SaaS architecture and integration with clinical systems, and AI that was compliant by design from day one. What AppFactors delivered was ACE loaded the clinical data model, the HIPAA requirements, and the security standards into every agent context from the start. 100% of the platform was built with AppFactors, and they experienced a 60% faster time to delivery. If we step back and consider the broader industry trends around context, Gartner named context engineering the top strategic AI software trend for 2025. And Gartner projects that 80% of AI software tools will include context engineering capabilities by 2028. And that will result in 30% improvement in agentic AI task accuracy from agents having received structured context. We hear 2 questions regularly, and one is, we already use Claude Code, Copilot, or Cursor. Is this the same thing? And we say, keep using your favorite AI coding agent. Those tools generate code. What AppFactors ACE does is govern the code that gets generated. They complement each other. The second question that we hear is, our compliance team will not approve AI-generated code in production. And what we share is, because of the 4 mandatory human review gates that are built into the process, your compliance team can review a 76-point code scorecard and a compliance certificate. They're approving code where their own policies were loaded as inputs, enforced as generation, and verified at every pull request. That's a fundamentally different conversation than reviewing code without any of that context. And right now we have a limited time only 7-day sprint that we're offering. You bring a real project, and in 7 business days, AppFactors will deliver a production grade MVP to your dev and test environment. And if you're interested in this, the guarantee is 7 days or no charge. Again, your requirements, your architecture standards, and you can reach out to Jack Cushing. Contact Jack at jack@appfactors.com. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you all good coding.